Hi, my name is Terry DiMonte. I am a retired broadcaster / podcaster. I worked at Shome, Mix 96, CJAD, and then back to Shome, and then went out to Calgary, and then came back to Shome and retired in 2021. Did morning radio in Montreal for a very long time, and now I have a podcast called The Standing By Podcast with my longtime friend, Ted Bird. Ted and I were on the radio for a very long time. Terry and Ted in the morning is now Terry and Ted on the Standing By Podcast.
So did you always know radio was your thing?
Absolutely.
How?
100%. I don't know, Tory. It's a really, it's inexplicable, really. I remember being, I've told this story so many times, so if somebody's watching this and they've heard that story, I apologize.
This is a new audience for you, though.
That's true.
I think.
That's true. I think so, too. When I was 5 or 6, I got for my birthday one of these plastic, you carried it like a briefcase, turntables. Like it was like a little, you could play a record on it. And you clicked it open and you put the record on, it had a plastic tone arm and whatever. And my parents bought me that for my birthday and reached in and grabbed a random 45 vinyl, long time ago, as the thing that I could play. And what they grabbed, without knowing it, was She Loves You by the Beatles. And I played it, according to my mother, I played it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that made me aware of the radio. Because what I was playing on the turntable as a kid, I was like, okay, this music that I'm playing here comes out of that box on the kitchen counter. And that started this fascination for me.
Right.
And when I was 11 and 12, I would fall asleep with a radio in my ear at night, and I would try and listen to radio stations from other parts of the world. On a cold night, you could, when I was a kid, on a very, very cold night, because of the way the transmitters and radio waves work, you could pick up like WCBS in New York. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I thought, wow, I'm traveling to New York by this, little transistor radio. Anyway, it sparked an interest in me. And when I was 14 or 15, I remember saying to a guidance counselor, no, I want to be on the radio.
The radio.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And how long were you on the radio for?
I started when I got my first job in the early winter of 1978. And I retired.
Not that long ago.
I retired in 2021. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how did the early days, what did they look like?
Well, it's pretty wild. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have any money to go to radio school. I didn't have any money to go to what was then Ryerson in Toronto, was the most respected place you could go to become a journalist or a broadcaster. We couldn't afford that. And we didn't know anybody in the business. And I just got really lucky. I went to audition at this Maison Radio-Canada on what's René-Lévesque now.
Right.
Used to be Dorchester. And it was an audition, I think I was 17 or 18. And the audition was back in the early days when television, before cable and everything else, at the CBC, they were looking for somebody to sit in a recording booth for 8 hours. And at the top of the hour and the bottom of the hour, you had to say, CBC Television, Channel 6, Montreal. That was the gig.
Wow.
And I auditioned for it, and I didn't get it. And because I was a kid. I was young, and I didn't know what I was doing.
Okay.
And the audition process was
Who did
really
it go
long
to?
at the CBC. I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
And it was a fill-in summer job. But there was a person there who sent me a note and said, I hear something in your voice, and I hear something with you that I think is indicative of a hidden talent you may have. I'm going to send your tape to Ottawa. And she sent my tape to Ottawa, and my audition to Ottawa. And about 3 months later, they called and they said, we're looking for somebody who's willing to go to Churchill, Manitoba for 4 months with no guarantees of employment after that. And I was like, I'll go.
Oh, wow.
I'll do it. So I went to Churchill, land of the polar bears on Hudson's Bay, about 900 miles north of Winnipeg. And I got my start at the CBC there.
That is incredible.
I don't know if it was incredible. It was a lot of fun. It's very lucky,
that's so fun.
too.
4 months.
Yeah, I was very lucky.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then what's changed the most in media since you started? Obviously, a lot.
Everything. Yeah.
Literally everything.
Yeah. When I started, that radio station in Churchill was built when Churchill was a military base for Americans and Canadians. Churchill has a runway for B-52 bombers during the early days of NATO. And at one point, there was 10,000 people there. When I got there, there was, I think, 2,400 was the population.
Oh my God.
And that radio station was considered an important part of the CBC chain. It's the way people in northern communities stayed connected. That's gone. I mean, now you are connected when you flip open your laptop.
Exactly.
And so the internet and in my opinion, Canadian corporate surrender is the way I look at it. When the internet started to gain traction and Facebook and Instagram and all of those platforms were first starting, radio just got scared and gave up and started to fire people and cut costs, and they became kind of shells of what they used to be. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, what changed? The internet changed everything. And
then what was your hardest moment in your career?
My hardest moment?
And then we'll go to your proudest moment after.
You know what? I loved what I did so much. I think the hardest moment was a decision I had to make back in 2007. I was working at Shome, and I loved what I was doing, and I loved the people I was working with the exception of one person. And it was a clash of just ideals and politics, and I was very unhappy, and I was very unhealthy, and I had thought had been in that one place too long, and out of the blue, I got a phone call from a radio station in Calgary, and started to negotiate with them, and they gave me almost everything I wanted. Every time I asked for something, they said, "Yeah, what else do you need?"
Oh my God, amazing!
Yeah, it was a different era that doesn't exist anymore. And the most difficult decision was I loved Montreal. I'm a Montrealer. I'm born and raised here. I went to Manitoba to get my start, but there I was, host of the morning show on the radio station that I listened to as a kid, and I thought, oh God, Jesus, what am I going to do? And I thought I needed to change, and I left. I went to Calgary for a few years. That was probably the toughest part of my journey. And then what is your proudest moment? I'm really proud of the fact that I was in the business for a very long time. I think I did it at a pretty high level, and I'm really proud of the fact that this became apparent to me when I retired. I became kind of part of the fabric of the city. And the thing that I really, really am proud of is I was able to reach both sides of the language divide. So when I retired, I was like, oh shit, wow. The story of my stepping away from the microphone was in Le Devoir and the Journal de Montréal. And I think I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to sort of bridge the divide of, two cultures that didn't think of Shome as an English radio station and didn't think of me as an English guy. They thought of me as a Montrealer. Okay. And I'm really, really proud of that. And then also, this is literally not even a question on my thing, but so the no shoes thing. Was that every single, was that always a thing? Yeah, it's when I started, I was a nervous pussycat. Yeah. When I left Churchill, the CBC asked me if I wanted to go to a station farther north. Yeah. And I was 19, and I was born and raised in Montreal, and I had a going away party at a place that had a capacity of 2,000 people. And then the next 2 days later, I was living in a town with 2,000 people. So it was a bit of a culture shock. And when they asked me to go north, I really hesitated, and they said, we think we want you to go to Frobisher Bay. So I hunted out jobs in Winnipeg, which was the biggest city south of Churchill, and I found myself a job there. And I couldn't believe my good fortune. I found a job as the all-night guy on the air from midnight to 6, and it was rock radio. And I thought, okay, here we go. I'm 19, and I'm in a rock radio station. But I was really, really nervous and always felt like I was going to get fired at any moment. So again, long-winded story to say, somebody said to me, when you're on the air, make yourself as comfortable as you can. Mm-hmm. So in my control room, the temperature was always really cold.
Oh.
The lights were always really dim. And when I went into the studio, I took my shoes off like I would do at home. And it made me relax, and it made me more comfortable. And so when I came in here today, it's a studio setting, and I immediately I'm a little bit nervous. So,
nervous for what?
Well, because I'm doing a podcast, and I want to. I want to do well for you and for me. And so I thought, my immediate instinct is
to take the shoes off.
Make yourself at home, and then you get comfortable.
I think that's a good lesson.
Yeah, that's what happened to me, and it worked for me. I there was a lamp with an arm, and the bulb is here. Mm-hmm. And the guys all made fun of me. The first thing I did before I started my shift was I would tear off a piece of the yellow legal pad, and I would tape it over the light so that the light was dimmer when I worked. Yeah, and the socks were part of that.
Okay.
Shoes was part of that, yeah.
And then what separates people who last in media versus the ones who don't?
I think the people that get into it for the right reasons. There's a lot of people from my era, 78, 79, 80, I get it, 1,000 years ago, but at that time, a lot of people wanted to get in it because they thought they were going to be famous. They thought they were going to meet rock stars. They thought they were going to get free CDs. There was a lot of kind of accoutrement that came with being on the radio. And the people that were in it for the craft of it, and I know that sounds pompous, but there is a craft to communicating. When you're trying to get people's attention, now remember, this is pre-internet, you're trying to get people's attention without pictures, without pointers, it's coming out of the square box on the kitchen counter, as I like to say. It's a craft to try and get that person's attention or affect an emotion with words and communicating. And I know that sounds high-minded, but that's what I always thought that the medium was and still is for, is making a connection with the person on the other side of the microphone. Right. So the people that took that seriously and tried to get better at it and worked at it, I think by and large excelled. You have to have a little bit of luck too. I was very lucky. I was in the right place at the right time for a number of spots in my career. But I think the people that looked at it as a craft and practiced and tried to better themselves at that craft stuck around longer.
And then what do you think of the world now? With social media, meme comments, everything.
Listen, I've come to accept it. I do a podcast with my former radio partner.
And what's it called?
The Standing By Podcast.
And what day is it? When can you listen?
It comes out Wednesday at 12:01 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we release it at midnight. Don't ask me why I don't pay attention. Fun. Yeah. So I was on the radio for many, many years with Ted Bird. So it was Terry and Ted in the morning, and now we do a podcast called the Standing By Podcast. And why was I telling you that again?
Just the world now. Why?
Yeah,
what do you think of the world?
Yeah. So we would not have the podcast, and we would not have a profile without social media. So that's the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is everybody has an opinion on everything all the time.
I know.
So we made a decision. When we started the podcast, I said to Ted, no politics.
Okay.
No sports. Well, that's not true.
No sports?
No. We talk about the Habs. But first of all, the most important thing for us was it's going to be a Montreal podcast done by Montreal radio guys for a Montreal audience with Montreal sponsors.
Okay.
That's the niche that I was looking for. So without social media, you know, I had a guy, before I came here, I get my hair cut on Green Avenue, have been going to the same guy for 1,000 years. And when I came out of Vince's salon, a bike courier guy stopped me and he said, "Hey, are you Terry DiMonte?" And I said, "I am." And he said, "Oh my God, it's so nice. Can I take a picture of blah, blah, blah?"
Oh, that's so nice.
That doesn't happen without social media.
That's true.
You know, because I've been out of the public, what used to be the public arena was radio, television, and newspapers. And now it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and this all doesn't happen without that. So that's the good news. The bad news is I think it's done a lot of damage to society.
It has.
It really does.
I agree.
I really do.
Do you ever get mean comments?
All the time.
Actually?
Yeah. We
Like,
just,
there's such a
last week on the podcast, Ted and I talked about Angine de Poitrine.
Yeah.
And I said, I thought they were very talented, great musicians, an amazing story for a Quebec band, but I don't like the papier-mâché thing, and they were on Tout le monde en parle, and they don't speak, you know, they answer everything with So that's a bit of a gimmick. And I said, as talented as they are and as big a story as they are, I'm not crazy about the gimmick part. And I think the gimmick part is going to maybe reduce their appeal in, say, a year's time. Because you know, one thing that the internet has done is there's a big story on Tuesday and then Friday it's over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I said, I don't know if this time next year we're still going to be talking about them. Well, people came at us like, one guy said, "You stupid old geezers, you don't know what you're talking about." And a comment that really made me laugh was,
But you look at them? You look at them?
Well, I look at them quickly, but I don't reply to them. And usually I post and I walk away.
Yeah, you have to.
And my wife is a lot more careful. She'll say, "Hey, did you see the comment on da-da-da?" And I'll say, "Oh, Christ, what is it now?" And it was, you know, sometimes they're funny, and I know it was a diss. A French guy referred to us as les deux mon oncle, meaning, you know, the stupid old uncles at the party kind of thing. And you know, there's and the one thing I won't tolerate. My Facebook page is public, so anybody can see it. And as soon as somebody comes at me with something horrifically personal, anti-Semitic, any of those things, gone, blocked. And as my wife Jess says, it's your page.
Exactly.
They're guests on your page.
I agree.
So you wouldn't welcome anybody into your house who came in and said, "Hey, you fat piece of shit." You know, you would say to them, "You know what? You're not welcome here anymore." So,
people are unhappy.
I agree 100%.
They just want to take it out on you.
You take the good with the bad, and you know this. There's some people that are on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, all day long, just waiting to jump. And there's a lot of people who are just not happy with their lot in life.
Right.
And, you know, you post a picture of, you know, something smiling and sort of
They'll
think
nitpick
innocuous.
Something.
And they find something to say. That's just it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. Well, I find I get more mean comments recently.
What, really, eh?
But just, I think it's because I'm more out there now. Like, I used to be out there, but now I'm really out there.
Yeah.
So it's just like anything. Like, I hate your face. Oh, I hate this. You're so dumb. You know? Yeah, I'm like, but I laugh now.
Yeah, that you have to have a bit of a thick skin.
Yeah.
And I've been in it long enough because it used to be, like when I worked at CJAD, I replaced a guy named I didn't replace him, I followed him, a guy named George Balkan. George Balkan was one of the best broadcasters in Canada, and he was one of the most popular morning men in Montreal in radio history. And it was a big thing for me to try and follow him. And he was kind and he was good to me, and he helped set me up and explain to his audience that I would be able to handle it. But for the first 6 or 7 months, it was really, really tough. And I would get the Facebook comments in an envelope with a stamp, you know, back in the day when people, and back in those days when you were angry about something, it's like, I miss George.
Yeah.
You had to go get a pen, get a paper,
send it.
write the note, put it in an envelope, find a stamp, take it to the mailbox. And most people by then would be like,
just throw it out, you know?
But now you just can
write it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just find people are so unhappy. And then how has Montreal changed since you started?
Boy, I saw Montreal change a lot. When I came back from Manitoba in 1984 to start at Chaume, I was walking down St. Catherine Street and I thought, oh God, what have I done? There was so many empty storefronts and alleyway signs, and it was a down period for Montreal because I grew up here. So, I was around I was a kid in 1967. I was 9 years old. So I don't have I wasn't going downtown to clubs, but I remember the excitement about Metro being built and the Décarie Expressway being built and Expo 67 and all of those things. Those were really special times 1,000 years ago. And then, it got better in the 90s and Montreal became really hip and, and then we went through the 2000s. And so my long-winded answer is I think Montreal has changed a lot. And I think for better or for worse, it depends on what your opinion is, I think the administration of Valérie Plante and the ideologues that were part of that administration really changed the city. And it depends on what you think of their, I don't want to say bike lanes because it's more than just bike lanes, but they really changed the look and feel and vibe of the city, I think. And it depends on whether you think it's good or bad. But I think that's probably the place where I think the most change to the city has arrived.
And then what's one word to describe Montreal? This is my favorite question with people.
It's a tough question. The first thing that came to mind is fabulous, but that sounds a little bit dramatic. It's a lot of words. It's dynamic, it's electric, it's diversified, I've lived in Langley, British Columbia, Calgary, Alberta, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Montreal. And when I retired, we moved out to British Columbia, and I love British Columbia, and I used to go out there every summer and every winter, and I would go for 2-week periods at a time. And I said to my wife, when we retire, when my last day at Chaume comes, we're gonna buy a house and go out to BC. And we did, and we lasted maybe into the second year, my wife and I looked at each other and said, God, we miss Quebec.
Okay.
And, when we left, I was like, to hell with the politics, to hell with the potholes, hell with all of this.
Well, that's why people, when I say one word, they're like potholes or the garbage in the city. But you were very nice about it, so good for you.
Listen, Montreal, I think Montreal is the most unique city in the country.
Okay, and then also, what are the best things about Montreal compared to other Canadian cities? Since you've lived everywhere.
Yeah, it's such an overworked phrase. It's almost become a trope, but it is the joie de vivre. As we record this, the Canadians are in the playoffs, and everybody in the National Hockey League all around North America will tell you the best place to see a hockey game is at the Bell Centre, and the best place to see a hockey game is the Bell Centre because of the partisans, the fans show their emotion.
Exactly.
It's the same reason why rock bands love to play here. Like all the rock bands I've been interviewed over the years, they love playing in Montreal because Montrealers wear their hearts on their sleeve.
Yeah.
So there's an emotion about the place that I think is injected into everything, whether you're on Crescent Street at 1 a.m, or you're at the F1 race, or you're in Old Montreal. There's an emotion that just about the people here that I just don't think I shouldn't say it doesn't exist in other places, but it's at another level in Montreal.
Yeah.
It makes the city just really, really rich.
Okay, and then what's your favorite closed bar they used to go to that you loved?
Ziggy's.
No idea what that is.
Yeah. Ziggy's is on Crescent, and Ziggy, the owner, is there every day.
Oh, it's still open?
Yeah, he's one of the nicest men on the planet, and it's directly across.
You still go? sometimes?
I haven't been for a long time because I live in the Laurentians now. But when we were on the radio, we were there Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Like we were there a lot.
Okay.
And I liked it because it was no live band and it's kind of small. And there's booths where you could sit with like 4 of your friends and you could hear yourself talk. And it gets crowded during hockey games. It's kind of like the old Cheers where everybody knows each other.
Maybe I'll go there for the hockey game on Friday.
It's directly across from Sir Winston's, just kitty corner to de Maisonneuve and Crescent.
Okay.
And Ziggy is the nicest man on the planet and is known as the mayor of Crescent Street, I'll have you know.
Oh. And then what are some restaurants that you go to in Montreal that you love? I know you don't live here anymore, but when you come in, if you you have to go there.
Our favorite restaurant in the world is the Monkland Tavern.
Okay.
In NDG. I used to live right behind the Villa Maria Metro. There's townhouse complex behind Villa Maria Metro. And when I moved back from Calgary, that's where I moved to. And I discovered Barb and Josh and the people at the Monkland Tavern. And Jess and I, when we're going up for dinner and we're coming into town, it's the first thing we do is see if we can get a table at the Monkland Tavern.
Okay.
We
I
love
haven't been there in forever. Yeah. And then do you think that we should get the expos back?
I do. I don't think it's likely. I just listen, I don't want to be a downer about that, but I would love to see baseball back in Montreal, but the economics of it, I'm not an economist, but the economics of it, I mean, the payrolls alone are staggering, just staggering.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And you have to build a new stadium, and you have to get the government involved, and you have to get the people behind it, and it's a big, big lift. I wish anybody, I know there's people trying to do it, and I'm going to Expos Fest this week.
What's this week?
April 25th. When are we recording this? Is it this week?
This will be long past, but it's okay.
So while we're recording this coming Saturday, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the old players, and I think Larry Robinson is going to be there. It's a fundraiser that a guy named Perry has been doing for the last bunch of years. The money goes to, I think, the children's hospitals, and a lot of the old Expos come back and sign things and attend and shake hands with fans. And there's such a deep love of baseball in Montreal. I'd love to see it come back. Me too. But every year,
a fun thing to do, you know?
Yeah, every year that passes, I mean, you got to find billions of dollars to do it. I don't know if we can do that.
Okay. And then what's your craziest story on the radio? I saw one on your Instagram, but we'll just, like a celebrity coming in.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
There could be a few.
Yeah, some of there are just so many of them. All of the ones that I remember are nice. But
it doesn't have to be. It could be literally anything. Like the biggest celebrity came to do the radio with you.
There's some odd stories. Like when we were working on Green Avenue, the studio was at 1310 Green Avenue.
Oh wow!
And the studio was really, really tiny. We were on the third floor. I think we're on the third floor. And studio was really tiny, and it had a tiny door. And when you pushed the door open, I was sitting here, and the door was right there. So when the door flew open, you did this. And one day the door flew open, and Donny Osmond was standing there.
Oh.
And Shome was a rock station.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, Donny Osmond, like, what are you doing here? And then he was in to promote something. He was, CKGM was down the hall, and somebody brought him in, and I said, can I talk to you on the air? And he said, yeah. And he sat down, and at the time, the idea of having Donny Osmond on Shome was really not done. And I thought, you know what? Everybody knows who this guy is. Let's talk to him and see what it's like.
Yeah.
That's something that never went out of my head. There was a morning where I had been out very late. I used to get up. My alarm used to go off at 4 a.m., and I think I got home at 1. And I was well soaked in martinis when I went to bed. So I woke up with a very bad hangover.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
proud of this, but this is a story.
This was a long time ago.
And this is a very long time ago. And I went to the studio, and at 7:30, there was some place in Florida that had, I forget, it wasn't like SeaWorld or Disney World. It was, I don't know, some place in Florida that had a lot of animals. And they brought in a guy with a drum, like a marching,
When you were hungover.
Yeah. And
I would
brought
perish.
a giant exotic bird, like a big, beautiful, I don't remember what it was, but it was big and it was orange and green and red. And they put it on my shoulder and they were drumming. And as they put the bird on my shoulder, it shit all over my shoulder. And I was hung over, and the smell of bird shit went up my nostril.
Did you throw up everywhere? Just kidding.
I didn't. I managed to compose myself.
And were you on the air still?
Yeah, that's a story that's.
So you couldn't even.
No,
it's live. At least this is not live, so you could cut stuff out.
I explained what was going on, and the people that brought all of this drum, trumpet, giant bird, I think they figured out pretty quickly that I wasn't really enjoying it.
Yeah.
And they left rather quickly. So there are small things like that stick out. You know, I was once invited to have a chat with Bon Jovi. John Bon Jovi was producing a record up north at Le Studio, and I drove up there, and they told me I had 15 minutes with him, and I ended up speaking with him for about an hour and a half. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met. So those things stick with you, you know. Had an opportunity to speak to Geddy Lee and Alex from Rush, and I was a massive, massive fan. So those things I'm grateful for, and I have fond memories of. And, you know, was lucky enough to get to know, I became friends with Melissa Etheridge. I had dinner. I'm friends. I wouldn't say good friends because he lives in Ireland, but my wife and I are good friends with Chris de Burgh. And when Chris de Burgh was in town a couple of weeks ago, we took him to the Monkland Tavern after the show. So a lot of those things come from having been on the radio, and those are there's just a couple of favorite memories.
Do you have guests on your podcast?
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah, sometimes.
So what do you talk about on
Well, it depends. You know, when I was living in BC, when we started the podcast, I was living in BC and coming into Montreal for a week, and Ted and I would record 10 episodes, and we'd run those through the spring, and then I'd come back in the fall, we'd do another 10. And so for those, we lined up guests. So, you know, we've had Dick Irvin and Chris Nyland and Tommy Schnurmacher and Michael Farber, and we targeted Montreal people that we loved and thought were interesting. So if you go on YouTube, there's I don't know how many episodes.
Yeah.
And if you type in Terry and Ted podcast Dick Irvin, you'll find that from a couple of years ago. Mostly now it's just me, and I prefer just me and Ted. Ted and I are doing what we used to do on the radio on the podcast, because I think I'm of the opinion that radio has changed so much. What we did and how we did it doesn't really exist anymore. Radio's changed so much. So for an audience that, you know, remembers us or, you know, likes that style of communication, that's what we do. And sometimes we have a guest. We try and support charities. People who are doing fundraisers and stuff, we'll have them in sometimes, but mostly it's just me and Ted.
Okay. Love that. We're going to do a rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's do Kill Your for Sugar. Okay. So radio or podcast?
That's really tough. Now podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah, radio's changed too much.
Yeah. Morning show or late night?
Morning show.
Montreal then or Montreal now?
Montreal then.
Scripted or off the cuff?
Off the cuff.
Safe or controversial?
In the middle.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, high wire.
Exactly.
High wire.
Saint Laurent or Crescent Street?
Crescent.
One topic you're sick of?
Politics.
Okay. One thing you would never say on air?
That's gone now because of the podcast.
Okay. Well, okay. Then
you mean you're
on
talking
the podcast, like just on air? Like I think on air is even this.
Yeah, well, it is. But nobody. There are no rules with this.
Oh, okay. You had rules before.
If you said Can I curse?
Yes,
If
obviously.
you said fuck on Shom, you were in a lot of trouble.
Did you get fined?
Yeah, not only with management, but the audience. I think that would have been déclassé, number one. Number two, the CRTC would have something to say about that. Because,
and then what happened? They would write you
you would get the station in trouble with, back then, the Canadian Radio Television Commission granted licenses to businesses to operate these radio stations. And if you ran afoul of them...
Did you ever?
No.
Never once?
No, never did.
Good for you.
No, never did.
I have a potty mouth, so that would never happen.
Well, I do too, but I loved my work too much.
That's true. Biggest did that just happen moment? Well, I guess the bird one.
Yeah, there's, probably meeting Elton John at Jerry Park. That was.
And then can you say the story?
Yeah, sure. I was still am massive. When I was a kid, this is a little embarrassing, but when I was a kid, I hung my Elton John albums on the wall. Mm-hmm. That's how big a fan I was. I loved Elton John. I knew everything about him. And he came to Jerry Park one year for something called the Miller Music Fest. I think it was 85 or 86. And I had become friends with Donald K. Donald. But Donald K. Donald, the promoter, the famous promoter who just passed away, he was not promoting this show. And I saw him at Jerry Park and I said, Donald, what are you doing here? He said, well, these are all my friends. And I said, who? He said, well, all the artists and whatever. And I said, oh, it's cool that you came, even though it's not your show. And he said, it's rock and roll. I belong here. He said, you want to come with me? I'm going to say hi to Elton. And
imagine you said no. No.
Well, I said, I was so naive and dumb. I said, well, it's not your show. How are you going to get backstage? And he laughed at me. He said, just follow me.
Yeah.
And I followed him and we went backstage and everybody knew, everybody, the security guards, the roadies, everybody knew Donald. Donald, hi, Donald, hi, Donald. And I was following behind him like a dumb kid. And he went to the trailer and went up the stairs. It was like a construction trailer with the dressing rooms. And the door flung open, and they said, come on in, Donald. And we turned the corner, and there was Elton John. And when Elton saw Donald, he stood up and he went, Donald! And gave Donald a big hug.
Yeah.
And I just stood there thinking, is this happening?
Best day of your life.
Is this happening? Like, is that Elton John? Am I about to meet Elton John? And I have a foggy memory of what took place because it was before the show and we didn't want to stay too long. But I did manage to say to Elton, I think I asked him a question of some kind. And then I said to him, would you sign an autograph for me? And he said, sure. And he said, how about your jacket? And he spun me around and he signed my windbreaker that I was wearing.
Cool.
And it's still hanging up in the closet at home.
That's an amazing story.
That's is this happening?
Yeah.
I remember thinking exactly that. Is this happening?
Oh, you have such good stories.
Thanks.
These are great. And then dream guest on the podcast. Even though you said you like being just the two of you, but maybe.
If I could have any guest on the podcast, I probably would love to have David Letterman.
Okay.
I love
Manifest. You know what that is?
Yeah, I know. You think, yeah.
Or the Etsy witch. I'm really into Etsy witches these days.
What's an Etsy witch? Tell me this story.
You go on Etsy and you pay a witch whatever you want.
Oh, really?
It's $10.
Yeah.
And I do it. And usually it comes true.
So it's like ooga booga kind
exactly.
of. Okay.
My dad laughs at me, but it's fine. I did it for my brother's wedding this summer. It became nice.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was actually nice.
All right.
I did it for Halloween. The weather was bad, but it wasn't as bad as it was supposed to be.
Okay.
And then
Etsy witch.
I did it for the first Habs game. That worked. The second one, I wasn't like manifesting enough. I think that's why it didn't work. But you know what? I'm going to do it again for Friday.
By the way, are we allowed to tell the story of me living in your family's coach house?
Well, you could, whatever. But I wasn't really around, which is so sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry we weren't around. But I'm saying that to when I moved back from Calgary. Yeah. Remember I told you the story about me moving
to you lived there after Calgary?
Yes.
Oh,
because
okay. I didn't know when in the...
Shom came back after me.
Yeah.
After I left.
Oh, they came back.
They came and said, we want you to come home.
Oh, okay.
And so when I moved from Calgary back to Montreal in 2011, I think it was, I had nowhere to live. I hadn't looked for a house. So we had to find a rental place. And my agent said to me, there's this really nice coach house. And I said, what's a coach house? And
Yeah,
she
exactly.
explained it to me. And that's how I met your family. And your
Wait, so,
family
you didn't know
are
them before at all?
No, I'd never met them before.
Wow, that must have been very interesting for you.
They're such lovely people. Your parents are just absolutely lovely. I adored them and I had a great time. And I don't know why I was telling that story, but you reminded me.
No, but just, well, because I was talking about my dad and how he thinks,
that's right, your dad.
how he thinks everything I do is dumb. So there you go. Well, I told him, I said, I'm manifesting this. He's like, what? He's like, why? I say I go to psychics. He's like, I can't even be around you.
Okay.
So
okay, well,
he just doesn't believe in it.
I'm going to consider that because I went to see Letterman, I think 3 times I went. But I would love to just shake his hand. So maybe I'll look into the witch thing.
Yes, I'll do it for you tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll send you the receipt.
It's very kind.
No, just like
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go. Perfect. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for asking me.